This is an SM Media production.
Hi folks, and welcome to the latest episode of the Rangers Assessment right here on SM Media. I'm Scott McKay. It's a pleasure as always to be your host. It's the first episode of 2024, so Happy New Year to all our viewers. It's a pleasure to welcome on our special guest, Scott McKay. Scott, it's a pleasure to welcome you back on, mate. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, pal. Thanks for having me on.
Always a pleasure, mate. How you been?
Aye, absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. It's getting on. I'm happy all that's suited away now and got on with life again. Back to normal.
Yeah, it's a very weird period of the obviously Christmas period, but a lot of football to talk about. I remember saying after the Christmas Eve game, where I think I was on a podcast myself, I can't remember what one it was, but we spoke about how big this Christmas period is in terms of not obviously a win at Parkhead would have been huge and massive, but there is a difference between the two clubs. We'll get into it in a bit more detail, but I don't think that result was a disaster, whereas this time last year it probably could have been. Rangers are still in the title race.
100%. 100%. I think I remember doing a podcast with yourself or somebody a while back, and we were talking about how we were going to be going into the next run of games. I think it was after the last set of internationals there. And we were like, if we win all our matches, then we could potentially be a point behind. Now we've finished up, we're 2 points behind with 2 games in hand. Well, 8 points behind, but day math. I think we're in a really, really good position. I think it's been a positive period. I think it's been a negative period for Celtic. Be all and well for them. They got to win the Old Firm match, but I think they're papering over the cracks across the road, and I think Rangers are starting to gather a wee bit of momentum.
Yeah, I think obviously while there is differences in terms of the manager's come in and clearly has done a remarkable job in terms of fixing what was, and we said it a lot, a broken squad, a broken system. And he's came in, he's won a cup, he's obviously finished top in the Europa League group and got Rangers into a position where they can challenge for the title. But the same problem in terms of the clinical difference. Now, we'll touch on it in more detail in terms of what the big issue was in the Celtic game on the 30th. Celtic have players who can create chances from nothing and take big chances, and Rangers don't have that. And that was the big difference. Rangers have one in a right back who obviously came up in the 88th minute, but Rangers had a lot of chances before that and just didn't take them.
Aye, 100%, 100%. The difference between the two clubs is Kyogo, isn't it? It's just that.
Aye.
Just that element of quality. And I mean, it's came to fruition now for 7 goals in 6 games or something he's got against us. And it's all important goals he's scoring.
Yeah.
It's not even, it's all, most of them are match winners, especially this season. So Rangers need to go, if they put their right back up front, we might actually get somewhere in terms of finishing some chances. But we need to have playing where he is. But to me, it's all fun down to who's a better January transfer window in terms of who's going to win the league this season. Rangers need to go out. I've seen different names linked. Shanklin's the only one that's proven at this level. It could ultimately be the difference in terms of Rangers win or lose the league.
Shankland, I think, is an interesting one, and there's some interest definitely, but I think we need to look at the kind of overall pros and cons if that signing was to be made. But I thought I wouldn't say Rangers played well first half against Celtic, but I don't think they played badly. I don't think we can look at Rangers were awful, Celtic were brilliant. Celtic make a lot of easy mistakes. They do. Rangers just didn't punish them. I can only think off the top of my head, and we'll get into the penalty situation in a minute. Apart from McCausland and Cantwell force a good save for Joe Hart, but I can't think of any other apart from the Dessers chance, which is still, woeful in all honesty. But Rangers just didn't. I thought Seema was off at Cantwell. I thought was shocking first half. McCausland, I think it was a big occasion. I thought second half he came on to a bit of game, but I thought the front four, I don't think Celtic's front four were brilliant either, but Celtic obviously, as you say, have a player in the level of Kyogo who can just peel away at that big moment, create his own chance, and put away a brilliant finish. Whereas Rangers just didn't have that. And again, that it feels like deja vu because we were sitting here. How many times last season have been the same conversations of Rangers just don't have that killer mentality up front? And I think you can have the best manager in the world, and I do think Clermont's a good manager, but Rangers just didn't take their chances, and it's that simple. Those are the big games, and you saw it even against Kilmarnock. Rangers scored 3 really good goals, but they were all bits of quality that weren't there on Saturday.
Aye, definitely. We're toothless up top. That's, as we say, that's the difference between the two clubs in these matches. I don't think there is a massive gap between the two sides. I think it literally is just that striker that's costing us. I thought in the game at Parkhead it wasn't our worst performance, it wasn't our best.
No.
I mean, it's fine margins, and a fine margin is if Dowell picks Tav out at the back post in the last minute, you've all of a sudden got a 2-each draw for nothing, literally nothing. So it's very hard knowing you're that close, but not being able to finish your chance. There's several Dessers. I mean, he does it again. He's trying now. He's trying, which he wasn't doing when Bill was here. He's running the channels. He's working defenders. But again, big game, big moment. Fluffs his lines. He's not got it. Not worth £4.5 million. Definitely not worth the money. And again, as we've touched on, Kyogo finishes his chances. Rangers strikers don't. So Cantwell had a really, really poor game. He's yet to show up in an Old Firm match for me. I know he did in the kind of the 3-0 win at Ibrox. Seema was one of his quieter matches. McCausland for me needs to get taken out, needs a wee bit of a break. I think McCausland needs to. I think now's the time that he's had 8 or 9 matches in him. Now's the time you do need to pull him back. You do need to say, right, sit out a while. But the problem come on, Scott, is we've got nobody really to replace him with.
That's the thing, and I think he's had, like you saw against Kilmarnock. I think it was a big performance against Kilmarnock where he was. I thought he was a lot better in terms of tracking back, but to have that, I mean, your confidence can be shot to pieces if you're playing. And I thought at times, I wouldn't say the occasion maybe got to him a bit, but in terms of like he was still trying to do what he usually does. He was still tenacious. He was still trying to get on the ball, but it was just difficult. It was difficult. But he comes up against Kilmarnock, and I thought he did really well. I thought it was probably between him and Ridvan, the two best players in the park. But there is a worry, and I think some of the criticism of how long does he get a free pass, I think some of that's ridiculous. But he is playing a lot of football, and he's playing a lot of football without that. But he knows that nobody's really behind him unless somebody comes in to really push him, and I don't think that's good for a young player.
No, definitely not. I mean, I've been saying for I started coming on podcasts, Scott, that I wanted players to get a chance at Rangers, but now is definitely the time to take a young boy out and give him a break. But like we say, there's Scott Wright's not going to challenge him for a jersey, is he? I mean, let's be honest about it. Rangers need to go out and get wingers in this transfer window. It's a massive thing that we need to do, because we can't rely on Ross McCausland for the end of the season, because if his support aren't patient enough,
no,
that's the problem. I'll give him time. Ross McCausland can have as many bad games as he wants for the end of the season, but because the other players need to pick him up and show him how to be a Rangers player, show him what it takes, let him make his mistakes. Well, as a club, we're never going to be able to produce talent unless we let the talent come in, make mistakes, but then, well, going back to my original point, this is when Clermont needs to get him, take Ross McCausland out for a couple of matches, give him a break. I mean, because since he's been in, he's nailed down that right wing position. We've not had anybody in that position in years since Daniel Candace, realistically. And McCausland's went in, and he's the first natural right winger we've had. Mm-hmm. But I think it's time to pull him out and get a bit of competition in from in the January transfer window and let him fight for his place.
Yeah, because it adds to depth as well. And as I say, Rangers just don't have that quality up top. And I think with Dessers, and I don't like you know me, I can be quite harsh on occasion, but I don't like it. But I just thought Dessers was very, very poor against Celtic. Now, chance aside, his overall, not laziness, but I just don't think he's the sort of player that can be a Rangers number 9 in those big games. I thought he was cumbersome. I just think the worst of Cyril Dessers we saw against Celtic, and I don't care if he scores again. He scored a brilliant goal against Betis, scored world class pass against Kilmarnock. Against Celtic, he was abysmal.
Aye, definitely. Then see, cutting him a wee bit of slack. He makes that chance that he misses in the first half himself because he intercepts the ball.
But it's that he
under
creates the
Beale,
chance. He creates the chance, but he does nothing with it. That's the thing.
But to me under Beale, he doesn't do that.
Yeah,
He's not the intelligence or the work rate under Michael Beale to go and try and get the ball in the first place. But he's not a Rangers striker. As much as I can try and defend him, I really, really don't want to defend him. I'm just offering our point of view on it. He needs to finish that chance. I mean, it's ultimately it's cost us a game. It's cost us a point.
and it's that as well. Like, he's done that against Betis. Scores. I can't remember who he scored. He scored a goal at home before that, but he was going in with confidence. He was going in with. We've heard a lot, and I've spoke to people in Holland at the start of the season. He's a confidence player, but it doesn't matter. I mean, there's no excusing. Like, if he should be full of confidence going into that game. That is your moment. Do you know what I mean? Score against Celtic. Somehow got a draw out of that game, which I don't think Rangers deserved a draw. Don't get me wrong, but they had chances. That was probably the biggest chance of the game. That didn't result in a goal. And what's he trying to do? Like, he takes 5 or 6 touches too many. You don't get that. Kyogo takes 2 and it's a goal.
I know. He's a striker supposedly in the prime of his talent. He should know when to hit a shot and when not to hit a shot. Yeah. It's not a young boy making a mistake. It's an established striker. You know what I mean? And he's a clear run at goal. Clear run at goal when he's intercepted the ball. So he's let his side down for me in that one.
Yeah.
But fair play to him for having the work rate to try and create it for himself.
No, I think that's fair enough, yeah, and I think that's kind of something I did say after the Kilmarnock game. I think he is a player who, I keep saying, play him as a 2. I think if you had him up front with somebody in a 2, which I think was the plan originally, you might see him to best effect. I just don't think in terms of being a lone striker who's going to have to do a lot. And he has got a good work rate and he's obviously got a good passing range, but in terms of being that clinical striker and a one which Rangers need because they do create chances, he's just no that for me. So unless if it is a Lauren Shankland, if it's somebody of that ilk, you can play him in a 2. I just don't see a future for him.
No, I don't want a future for him at Rangers. I really don't. I don't want him playing for my club. Because bottom line is he's not good enough. He's not good enough to don a jersey. He's not finishing big chances. The only one he's done so far is Betis. I mean, he's not come out and scored a winner. He's just not got it for me. It's like, is it a square hole and round pegs? Is that what they say?
Yeah, square peg round hole. We have to get into it, but we'll not spend too much time. I've said my piece on a couple of podcasts we've done over the past couple of days. There's a big moment in the first half in terms of Alistair Johnson definitely hits his hand. Whether Willie Collum didn't think it was deliberate. Scott, we could spend a full podcast talking about this, and I think it's probably been done to death. But the problem that where I have sympathy for Rangers and the way they've went about the statements and things like that is the overall problem that a lot of people have, including myself, isn't to do with the fact that the decision, it wasn't a penalty. A penalty wouldn't have been given. It's the fact that the communication has been so poor. And then 30 minutes later, the national broadcaster, who are really not happy about this, and I've spoken to a couple of people who have a bit of an inside track there, and I know for a fact they're absolutely raging at how this has went down. Willie Collum has made a decision it's not a penalty kick. And 30 minutes later, instead of just doing what he should do with VAR, if he doesn't think it's a penalty, move on, forget about it. He's brought up an offside, or whoever's been responsible with putting an offside still in Sky has tried to use that as a way out. Whereas, in my opinion, by doing that, he's made it worse because what it looks like now is they've made a mistake to begin with, and they're trying to cover it up by putting up an offside still. That's irrelevant.
Aye, definitely. See, first things first. Rangers should have been better on the day to get a result, right? We shouldn't have been relying on a penalty.
Yeah.
I don't want to come in at it for that angle, but what I will say on it is that I think what Rangers are trying to say, and it is the actual process of how the decision was made is wrong. And I think Rangers are right to call it out, because Clement says in his press conference after it that how is he supposed to train his players in terms of going by the rules if nobody seems to know what the rules are. To me, that's kind of sums it up in a nutshell. There needs to come out somebody for the SFA or the SPFL, whoever it is, and gives a bit of clarity on certain situations that have happened. I mean, they done it during the Premiership, so do you know why the audio wasn't released? I'm not wanting to get regulation or anything like that, but I mean, it's a bit amateurish.
Yeah, no, it is, and that's what I don't have a problem with Rangers asking for the audio. I think every club, and the Hearts thing's a good example as well. I don't know if you've seen it. Hearts played Ross County. Was it Ross County? I think, or Livingston. Sorry, and Alan Forrest was cautioned for a dive that clearly wasn't a dive, and went to VAR, and they still thought it was a dive, even though there's clear contact. Mm-hmm. It's been rescinded. The yellow card's been rescinded, and they have every right to ask for the audio, because I would love to know why they think that's a dive. But it's the same here.
100%.
The SFA, the problem the SFA have got with this is they can't release the audio themselves, because it clearly shows that one of the referees hasn't followed the correct procedure, and they can't be made to look stupid. So what's happened now is that, in my opinion, and I'm not saying I think you know me well enough, Scott, I think the overall conspiracy thing on both sides is completely ridiculous. But
it's a non-starter.
The fact that they won't release the audio and they're making it look as big bad Rangers, and everybody seems to be jumping on that bandwagon because, and let's face it, it's a Rangers podcast. We do another podcast, another club on the channel as well. A lot of Scottish clubs and a lot of Scottish fans don't like Rangers, so ganging up on Rangers isn't a problem to them, even if they're right or wrong. But the SFA don't have a backbone in terms of this whole operation. They don't have a backbone in order to really sort this out, because instead of, I mean, they haven't come out in the past few years, for example, when various members of the media, various fans, various CEOs have accused their referees of being cheats, but now they're making statements every day. That doesn't add up. We talk about referees' consistency. That isn't consistent. We have to focus on the fact that this is Rangers have been totally wrong by saying Willie Collum shouldn't get Rangers games. That's a dangerous path to go down.
100%.
But clubs, players, fans reserve the right to critique a referee's performance.
Mm-hmm.
That isn't allowed. Yeah. The SFA don't allow that, because I've had numerous requests denied for referees to come on the podcast because they're fear of they get demoted, or they're fear to say something that just goes against them in the future. And I think that's the totally wrong process to go down. I don't think the SFA and the SPFL, the SFA obviously more here, but they do when they're tasked with explaining themselves and improving the game, they just don't do it.
I know, 100%. I think we need to be looking at ways in how we can fix this in terms of, but what can be done so a situation like that doesn't arise again. To me, it's amateur not releasing the audio. I mean, you heard, was it the Spurs match a while back?
Liverpool, yeah.
Spurs Liverpool, audio get released. It's a clear error. They went over it, they were blue in the face, it got picked apart, and then it was forgotten about in a couple of days, right? To me, that's open and transparent. That's honest work. So that's a start. That's the way we need to fix this. Yeah. I think we've got a poor standard of refereeing in this country.
100%.
And I think it comes down to because these guys are working part-time, right?
Yeah.
And I think, see this whole bias thing about, they only get decisions for Rangers, they only get decisions for Celtic, blah, blah, blah. I think you need to bring in a better quality of referee for abroad to work with these guys to fix this on some level. That there needs to be some kind of something done about it, basically. The one thing that needs to happen without all this, but they need to learn for it, is consistency. They need to say, right, we've done that wrong, it won't happen again.
And a
But
big thing I think's went under the radar as well is, and this happened in Christmas Eve against Motherwell, that I think referees, and I see referees do this all the time at different levels, and it bugs me sideways. Paulo Bernardo commits a bad challenge in the second half, and it's a clear yellow card, and he's already on a booking. Nick Walsh initially kind of goes to his pocket, but because he sees who it is, he changes his mind. Doesn't matter if the player's on a booking or not. If you think that's a yellow card, it doesn't matter if the player's on a booking and you think, oh, this will kick off. If it's a booking, you book the player. And we saw it in Boxing Day, Christmas Eve as well. I think it was I can't remember the situation, but it was a Motherwell player. He was on a booking, clear red card. I think it may have been O'Donnell. It's a clear booking, but because it's a yellow card, he's thinking, oh, I don't want to send a player off. Doesn't matter. That's more dodgy to me than anything else, because it's you can't do that. You can't make decisions. That's consistency. If you think it's a yellow card, it's probably the first yellow card was less. But because he's already on a booking, he's thinking, no, I'm not gonna send him off. I don't think that's very fair. It's nonsense. It's just, but again, Scottish football, we overlook the ways to improve the refereeing standard and focus on the hysteria. And the conspiracy chat in the past few days is just completely, for me, God, I don't want to ever hear a conspiracy thing again, because both sides.
A load of nonsense.
It is a load of nonsense. But again, it's played up to. It's people love hearing about it. People know it generates nonsense. So I think what the issue here has been, and I've said it often, Willie Collum has decided it's not a penalty, but instead of right, it's not a penalty because I don't think it's a deliberate handball. Somebody's quizzed him or whatever, and what I think's happened is somebody said, "Oh, you might have got that wrong there, Willie," and he's looked later on, or somebody's looked later on for him and said, "Right, oh, there's an offside, you'll get away with that," and they've showed it to Sky, and I think they've made that situation worse, because Sky then have showed that with hearing the VAR audio where the offside wasn't mentioned at the time, and Willie Collins thought, right, that's it, all settled, and it's not. It can't be. It can't be, because you can't get away with that. That is inept, because you're expecting, and we've all made mistakes in the workplace. That's fair enough, but you have to be held responsible. You have to be critiqued. You have to be quizzed if you get things wrong. And Willie Collum, as many people know, I think is a terrible referee. And I'm not on here saying, "Oh, Willie Collum deserves people to be hounding him." I don't think that at all. But I think we're allowed as football fans to go, right, why has this referee made that decision and came to this conclusion without him feeling threatened?
100%. There's more decisions in the match. There's not just the fact that Alistair Johnson thinks he's playing netball at handball anyway. Like, I mean, he clearly palms it out. It's a penalty. It goes to VAR. VAR rule it out for offside. So that's what annoyed me a wee bit about the match was the lack of consistency when it came to showing a second yellow card.
Yeah, that's that as well.
And that to me is more important to fix, as well as it's got the same level of importance as well as a handball decision. So I mean, when it comes down to it, and this is happening all up and down the country, Scott, especially in the top league, especially in the Premiership, it's happening in the SPFL, and it's got to be fixed. These referees need to stick to the rules. You touched on the O'Donnell decision about it for Parker. That's a second yellow card. That's no. All right, I'll let you off that one since there's 2 minutes left. You can't be doing that. You're a professional and live on TV doing things like this. Yeah. And like you're saying, they need critiqued, but their boss's boss needs to become open and transparent with things like this and come out with a plan and tell the public how this is going to get fixed. But it's not. It's just brushed under the carpet and we go on with it again. Yeah.
And I think it is something like, I think it needs to be like a kind of watershed moment to improve the refereeing standard, but it won't be. It'll be big bad Rangers.
Yep.
The referees are corrupt, and I just think it's nonsense. And I think the SFA, I don't think the SFA cover themselves in glory often, and I don't think they have here as well. Rangers, I think, could have handled it better in terms of, I think, asking Willie Collum to not be officiating. I think it's a dangerous process, but we could talk about this all night. Let's get into the Kilmarnock game. Quick assessment on that. 3-1 win, 3 really good goals, and it was just a case of getting into the winter break in a high. I think there's positives to take. really liked the performance of Ridvan. We'll get into him in a minute, but there was a real high kind of feeling after that game of right disappointment on Saturday, getting Tuesday, get the 3 points and get into the winter break with a bit of confidence. And I think that was it. That was result and task, man.
Aye. That pretty much sums it all up. Desser's put a good ball through McCausland for a goal. Thought the performance overall was very convincing. Under Beale, do we get the 3 points there? Did Kilmarnock come and snatch a point off? Is there even a win?
Kilmarnock had chances coming. I think Kilmarnock played well.
McInnes is proven he's worth as a manager yet again for me. McInnes is a great manager, and how he's not had a chance at a bigger club is beyond me. I think he's got Kilmarnock playing really good.
He did have a chance at a big club.
I know.
Take it.
That's true. He did have big chances at Aberdeen, but it's somebody in England should come and take a chance on him, because he's having that team in that club with that budget up to 4th position is a really good achievement. And I think it was last season he got them into a cup semi-final or something like that.
Yeah.
He's done that consistently when he was at Aberdeen. Consistently. So I'm always a wee bit on the kind of edgy side when we play a Derek McInnes team, because you just don't know what you're going to get.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe under Michael Beale that Rangers don't walk away with the 3 points the weekend. I think that's where, since Clermont's come in, the mentality shift is changed, and the confidence levels have changed. Anytime we seem to, I think we're 2-0 up when we conceded, and it just seemed to annoy Rangers, and Rangers just went out the park, scored a third, as if it wasn't a problem. God, that's new for me as a Rangers fan. I've supported Rangers for the early 90s, and that's a feeling I've not had, that got a confidence I've not had in a long time. So onwards and upwards, I think it was an important 3 points. We needed to bounce back with a good performance.
Yeah, the aforementioned Ridvan Yilmaz, I thought, put in probably his best performance in a Rangers jersey, but as Rangers kind of come and go, as soon as you have a good game, you leave the club. And he seems to be on his way to Hellas Verona now. There's speculation regarding the fee. I've tried to find out if there is truth that it's going to be 3 million. There's no real confirmation on that. I personally can see both sides of selling him. I think he's never fully convinced me that he's the long-term first choice, but I think also in terms of what left back would I rather sell in January, I think everybody knows my answer to that question. But I can see why it's happening, but I can also think this could be a mistake. But it is that thing of what do you want?
See if Borna Barisic wasn't disappearing after playing 3 matches, I would probably want Borna at the end of the season, because the reason why I'm saying that, Scott, is because Ridvan, to me, presents a weak link. The teams target him. And we've seen that, like, for example, Shankland at Ibrox peeled off the back post onto Ridvan, got the header and scored the goal. And it made for a very difficult 90 minutes for Rangers. So to me, he's a bit of a weak link. I think going forward, he's what we're looking for in the left back, but I don't think he's suited to the domestic game. It's weird that he was dropped to a European squad, because I think could have really flourished in a Europa League.
I wouldn't be surprised if that has played on his decision as well. Like,
of course that is.
Like, that's kind of been the reason he's been at the club, and to be in that position where I still think Michael Beale should be. I mean, even at the weekend, watching Michael Beale was just so predictable in that Sunderland game. But I think that could be as big a reason as any that he's maybe thinking, right, I'm maybe looking for a change. In terms of going to Serie A, I'm not sure that's the place for him either.
No. But I would probably have said maybe La Liga or somewhere like that.
I did really like his performance in Tuesday, in terms of just the way he was able to. I don't think defending was a total focus, but he was playing some really good passes. I thought his pass for, I think it was the third goal, was very, very good. I think there's a really talented player in there, but is he the answer right now for Rangers long term? I'm yet to be convinced, and I think it all depends on the value of what you're getting for him. If it's less than what you paid, I don't see the sense in that at all. It has to make sense financially, but he is one of the few key assets. also represents a very different method in terms of the way Rangers transfer business has been the past couple of years in terms of young, up-and-coming player. Injuries haven't helped them. I do think this will be a player in a couple of years we'll see and think he's made a really good career for himself. I just think Rangers at that time, I don't think he was the answer for what Rangers needed, but just one of those difficult ones.
I think if we're getting offered my money back for him, plus covering the percentage clause that Besiktas have got in place, then because we need a budget for January, let's be honest about it. There's no two ways we can pick a left back up. There's a few left backs that have been quoted in different media outlets saying that they're out of contract and stuff in the summer. So we will have targets and we should be able to pick up a left back. But a wee man's physicality is not just up to scratch. See if he's a few inches taller, I would maybe want to persevere with him. But he's been here about 18 months now. I mean, if we can get our money back, we should take it and run, to be brutally honest with you. Because it's a position that needs improved upon, and I think we can improve upon it and still have money left over.
Yeah, there's been a few names mentioned, obviously. One I think is very doubtful at the moment is Josh Doidge. I think that he seems to be heading for Torino. I think that makes a lot of sense. Guy Small from 20 seems to be mentioned as well. Kai Wagner, Philadelphia Union free agent. That seems to tick a lot of boxes. I watch about the MLS and he has stood out a couple of times. So I think that would be a real improvement if they can go there. Guy Small's out of contract in the summer. There's a couple other names mentioned. I've said it. I think left back's a position that's been addressed badly in the summer. I think you need a left back, and I think what Borna was 3 years ago. If you can find somebody like that, I think you're onto a winner. But it's finding them in January. I think it's tough.
I want somebody like Yilmaz going forward though, because see when he was playing that kind of inverted role against Kilmarnock, he was coming in. Playing, we've seen him do it against Livingston in the cup at the beginning of the season as well. It gives you something. It gives you a variety going forward, and that's why, in fact, I actually wrote an article on him for you at the beginning of the season, saying why I thought he was going to be an important player. We need somebody of that ilk, but that can defend a bit better. To me, and out the names quoted, I don't really know much about them. Doig would probably be the one that I would want because he's Scottish, he's homegrown. I want Rangers to sign Scottish players. I think it's my Rangers teams that have won titles have always been built upon having a core of Scottish players in their team. And I'll never kind of leave that belief. But the other options do have a decent pedigree. They have a decent pedigree. Who's the boy for PSV? Is it Oppegard?
Oppegard, yeah, the Norwegian boy. Yeah. I can see that. I think that's more a summer thing. I think he's more it's a term I hate, but project. I think he's more in terms of somebody here and now to really kick on. I've said that, as people know my opinion in Barisic now. I think that position needed address even before Yilmaz left, even before there was talk of Yilmaz leaving. So I think a quality addition in January, whether it's a loan or an option to buy or whatever, I think just get somebody of a bit of quality in January, and then
see what else you could do as well, Scott. You could sell Yilmaz, keep the money, put Sterling in as a left back, as a backup left back, because he's not going to get a run in midfield now. He would have started against Kilmarnock if that was the case. When Lundstrom's in, he's a man. He seems to become on Sky in the middle part. Whether I agree or disagree with that's a different story. But you could put Sterling at left back to cover Bonnet, and potentially is it boy Robbie Fraser where he's at in his development. I don't know if he's ready for first team football or not. You could bring somebody in on loan. You could utilise the money in a different area. I mean,
no, I think that's fair. I think it's a position that needs looked at in terms of whether it's that's the road you go down. The other position in defence that I want to touch on is left centre back. Obviously, there's been chat regarding Scott McKay.
Yep.
I'm not sure that it's going to be one that will be pursued, but I know you really like the idea of McKenna.
Aye. I think see, looking at Connor Goldson's Rangers career, he's never had that steady partner. I think Scott McKenna comes in again. He's Scottish. He's got a 33 international caps, Premier League experience. It's a good deal. It makes sense for what I know. The the player would make the move. But it's just whether Rangers are interested in him or not. I think he's potentially a better defender than Connor Goldson, and that might turn a few heats when the pod goes out, but I really do think he's that good. I just remember his battles with Morelos, and he more than matched Morelos on a few different occasions. He more than matched him. So for me, it's definitely a go. He's not that great with the ball at his feet, but having somebody with a big head at the back that can put the ball out for a throw isn't a bad thing either. I mean, he's only got to distribute the ball to the left back to keeper or Goldson. He's not really got to do much with it. Rangers centre halves naturally in Scottish football don't get dressed, so I don't think there's many errors there. Apart from maybe when we play a high line, I don't think he's a paciest of players. But I think it's a no-brainer for Rangers to go and get this boy in on loan with a pre-contract.
I think I can see, like, in terms of if it's initial loan and you're going to pay nothing in the summer, I think, yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
If you're looking at it, Scott, is he better than Davis and Suter?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I think he is. I was really disappointed in Suter the other day. I just don't think, and I've been somebody who's been, if you can get him fit, I think he's a really good defender. I just think he's mistake-wise, he makes a lot of mistakes for me. Davis, I've never been convinced with. I've been honest about that. I think if he is he better than what's there? Yes. Is he an option in terms of loan in January? We are an option to get him for a free in the summer. I think it makes a lot of sense. Does he fit? Yeah, I think he does. Left-footed. I think that the pros outweigh the cons for me. I'm just not sure if the interest there. I think that's the honest answer. I think I'll be keen to see if that is something that's explored. But in terms of, is he going to be a Rangers player at the end of January? I'm not too sure. But again, I think in terms of, makes a lot of sense to me, to be honest. And I didn't think I would ever say that because I've never thought he was the top level, but I think now I think it makes a lot of sense, and I think I think Nottingham Forest will be glad to see the back of him, so I think it makes a lot of sense.
Have you heard anything about it?
Nah, not massively. No, I've heard we think that Celtic aren't interested, but I'm not sure that's true. But again, we'll see how it happens. I think there'll be a lot of rumours between now and the end of January. Right, attackers. I think attacking needs to be. I think midfield's fine in terms of Raskin coming back. Sterling's there as an option. Dill, I think's come back. I think Dill's done really well. I think midfield's pretty fine. I was talk of the boy Alzate. I think that'll be one for the summer. I think that's not a priority. Wingers, I think, are a massive priority. Seema's obviously the African Cup of Nations. The problem has been a shambles in the summer in terms of not being touched. I think Rangers really need to focus on wingers in January. I'll be amazed if there's not two wingers in.
I don't think Million Manhoff's going to be one of them.
I don't think so either. I think that's a summer one.
I think Batiste want to keep him. To try and avoid relegation.
Yeah.
Which is understandable. I've not heard any other rumours about wingers apart from the boy.
Not a lot.
Is Silva potentially going to play left mid to cover Seema while he's away?
I think he's one of those that can probably play in both. I think Silva's a really good bit of business in terms of, yeah, he's not going to be a long term. I think he possesses a lot of quality. He's somebody that can play, as you say, at kind of all ends of the front line. But I do think there still needs to be a lot. You said there about McCausland. The reason McCausland's playing a lot is because there's nobody there to challenge him.
See if Zach Lovelace doesn't get that injury, does that potentially change our mind?
I still think you need.
Oh, aye. We definitely need a winger, but in terms of the right wing position, I think you could have looked at Lovelace and McCausland potentially fighting out.
Yeah, you could have. Yeah,
if he doesn't get that injury, but then we're relying on youth products again, which Rangers don't seem to want to do. There is a definite outcry. There's a need for an out-and-out striker for me as well.
Yeah.
Silva isn't an out-and-out striker.
He's not. I think he's somebody who can play in all positions in the front line. But in terms of Rangers haven't had for 4 or 5 years now, including Morelos in that. Rangers haven't had a penalty box number 9 in a long, long time. And I think we'll get into Shankland. I think it's probably a good time. Scott, I'll be honest, I know where you stand in Lawrence Shankland. I think Lawrence Shankland, for £1 million, 2 million, big, really no-brainer. I think you're going to have to pay double that to get him in, and I'm not sure in terms of the player trading model that Rangers are trying to implement, it makes sense. But in terms of short-term option, it does. But I think at 20 years old, the money you're going to have to pay, I don't know. I just don't know.
I think you're getting a guy that's flying. He's in the prime of his career. I think he's got a good reading and understanding of the game. I think in terms of his out of box work, it's improved at Hearts, but I don't think it's massively improved. I think £3-4 million isn't a bad move, to be honest, because I think, see, to make the player trading model work, all these chances that are getting created, the likes of your Campbells, your McCausland, Seema, for example, say, for talking sake, Division 1, Seema's a player, and we're looking, that's for 3 that could be potentially. You need somebody to put the ball in the back of the net to make these players look good. That's how, I think that's what Bill was trying to do with the player trading model in the summer. If there is any rationale behind it, is with Dessers and stuff, with Dessers and Danilo coming in as your kind of your big names and Lammers and all this. Don't even talk about Sam Lammers, but
we will in a minute.
but I think if Shankland comes in, I think that player trading model starts getting motion, starts oil in the wheels, if you want to say that, because Rangers start winning more matches, start performing better, start winning more trophies. And I think that's crucial. I think £3-4 million a snippet. If we can spend £4.5 million on Cyril Dessers, then I don't see. Obviously, that money's well and truly gone now. But if Rangers have got the capability to do it, then I think there's a deal that needs to go and be done with Hearts. And for what I've read online, Shankland wants to move. Well, whether that's true or not, I don't know.
Is Shankland a player though, and this is something I've thought for a while, is Shankland a player who will stand out like a sore thumb at clubs like Hearts, Dundee United, but when he gets to, how long we've seen it, if he gets to an Old Firm club, is he going to be that number one option? Because he is the main man at Hearts. Let's not, Hearts, everything goes through him in that Hearts side. He's not going to get that at Rangers. Now, I really like Lawrence Shankland as a player. Is he going to be that number one for Rangers?
Currently, aye.
But
who else is there?
Long term, I see it. I mean, if it happened, I would be all for it. I think, but I'm not sure that Rangers are going to pursue it. And I think if it was me, if it's £3 million, absolutely. But I just don't know. And again,
I think it could be one to potentially revisit in the summer. I'm the same. I don't think the deal makes sense because of the time and place of it just now. Where I think the need for it to happen just now is more than what it would be in the summer, because I think if you bring this boy in, you win a league. To me, he's that quality gap between the two Old Firm sides just now in terms of putting the ball in the back of the net. He'll come in as a short-term fix, and he's still going to be challenging for a jersey in the next few years. I think he's your 25 goal a season man.
Yeah, he is. He is. Don't get me wrong. And I think, like, in terms of Hearts, he has to create a lot of his own chances, but he's not going to have to do that at Rangers. He's obviously, Rangers need a penalty box striker, and again, I've said for a while, Rangers had a Chris Boyd in their team, they would probably win the league 9 times out of 10, but they don't have that. There's one there, but it's just, does it make sense financially? Does it make sense long term in terms of the player trading? I'm not sure. But in terms of outgoings, Scott, before we wrap up, Sam Lammers, I got one the other day that Sam Lammers seems to be on his way out in a loan deal. I think it's inevitable. I think we can file that as an F. It's just no word. And again, this is where I think the summer recruitment of Rangers needs to be analysed in a long-term documentary, because everybody could have told you that Sam Lammers would be exactly what he's been. Disappointing, because he's had 2, like I wrote about it, he's had 2 goals and 2 assists in 31 games, and he was at 33 appearances in Serie A last season in the exact same numbers.
Aye.
Can you tell me that? Can you tell me that? I'm not a scout, I'm not an analyst, I'm not an analytics guy compared to other people, but an average Joe could see that.
100%. See, the thing is, we can't even sit and say there wouldn't be teams interested to, because there's Dutch sides that would take Lammers back. There's there is interest for what I've heard.
You're
There is.
not getting what you paid though, because Rangers
No,
are massively overpaid.
we're not getting what we paid, but sometimes you need to cut your nose off to spite your face. And in terms of getting them off the wages, but say on 20, 25 grand a week or something like that,
like
it's wild money. It's wild money. Like him, Roof, Scott Wright, I mean, Tom Lawrence, the amount of players that are not stealing a wage off Rangers, but shouldn't be getting paid on reflection of their ability in game time and stuff like that. It's ridiculous how many Rangers are losing just now. So I think there needs to come a time where you say, right, well, I don't want to see him getting loaned out for the rest of his contract, because I don't think that doesn't benefit him or us, to be honest. It's just a complete not a waste of money if we do that.
Yeah. But he's no the answer. Again, we can file him in Dessers and under disappointing signings. And again, it's that when you've maybe got a player like Shankland for £3.5 million, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. But if you've not been burned for £7 million 6 months ago, I think it doesn't make sense. But again, we'll touch on transfers a lot over the coming weeks, I would imagine. But we are going to wrap up the show there, Scott, and there won't be a show next week because there's no games, but we'll return after Dumbarton and we'll get a new episode of the Rangers Assessment out. Scott, I want to thank you as always for coming on, mate. It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
No, thanks for having me on again,
Pleasure.
Scott.
Thank you very much, everyone who's tuned in. Please follow us on social media. And if you want more Rangers content, subscribe to our YouTube channel, podcast channel, and our Patreon site. We'll have some opinion pieces going out on that. Thank you, folks. See you soon.